Effective Leadership and Communication Skills by Tyler Hoey. Introduction. In this PowerPoint presentation, I will be looking at effective leadership skills and effective communication skills. It is very important to understand this topic, and hopefully this presentation can accomplish this goal. The presentation has been split into different sections and will be explaining each of the sections in detail in the coming slides. The following sections are effective persuasion, effective negotiation, managing effective group meetings, how to deliver a presentation effectively, KPIs, and a final conclusion. Q&A section. Finally, at the end of the presentation, I have included a Q&A section. If there are any questions throughout, please keep these until the end. Effective persuasion. The first section of the presentation is effective persuasion. This topic can be broken down into steps. There are 4 leadership steps to successful persuasion. These are: number 1, establish credibility. To do this, you have to have either good relationships with your audience or have a high level of expertise in the given subject. Number 2, understand the audience. This is probably the most important aspect. You have to know your audience. This could be understanding the age range of your audience. For example, are they young kids or are they old, middle-aged people? From this, you can structure what you say to be specific to the audience to keep them engaged. Number 3, reinforce your positions with language and evidence that are compelling to the audience. This refers to language you choose to use and the evidence that you present. You have to keep your audience focused and interested in the presentation that you are giving. If you bore them with plain language and uninteresting evidence, the audience may lose their focus and not take on board what you are attempting to say. Number 4, leadership that resonates with the audience emotionally. It is important to try and connect with the audience on an emotional level. This will help you connect with the audience. This can be done by sharing personal experiences that may be relevant to the chosen subject, for example. The next slide is effective negotiation. There are 10 steps to effective negotiation. Number 1, analyze and cultivate your BANTA. BANTA stands for Best Alternative to Negotiated Agreement. This means it is the next best possible outcome if you don't get what you originally asked for. Number 2, begin to negotiate. It is important to start the negotiation by clearly stating what you want from your negotiation. If that isn't possible, this is where the best alternative to the negotiated agreement comes in. Number 3, build a rapport. It is important to build a rapport. This will help both parties understand each other and hopefully come to the best outcome for both. 4, listen to other individuals. Listen carefully and take on board what other individuals in the negotiation are saying. Number 5, ask appropriate questions. This is an important step. You have to ask relevant and appropriate questions to gain as much information as possible from other members of the negotiation. Number 6, look for smart trade-offs. If you can't get exactly what you want, look for alternative trade-offs which could benefit you. Number 7, be aware of anchoring bias. Anchoring bias is the common tendency to give too much weight to the first number put forth in a discussion and then inadequately adjust from the starting point or the anchor. Number 8, present alternative offers. This could be lesser offers which you are willing to accept if you can't receive exactly what you want. Number 9, try a contingent contract. A contingent contract is an agreement that states which actions under certain conditions will result in specific outcomes. This, for example, could be certain bonuses which occur if you reach a certain goal. And number 10, plan for the implementation stage. Slide 5, managing effective group meetings. The next slide in my presentation is on effectively managing group meetings. There are 8 main steps for managing an effective group meeting. Number 1, have a clear agenda. A clear agenda is important. This will help keep the meeting on topic and will help keep the meeting's time frame in line. It also allows for participants to prepare before the meeting takes place. Number 2, set a start and finish time. This lets the participants know when the meeting starts and finishes, but it is important that you stick to your finish time. Number 3, designate a meeting leader. At the beginning of the meeting, it is crucial to designate a leader. This could be yourself or someone in the meeting. They will initiate the conversations and will lead off. They will also help to keep the meeting moving along, which will help the meeting stay on schedule. Number 4, cut down on unnecessary meetings. Meetings can be tedious and at times unnecessary. It is important that they are only used when really required. For example, if something can be said over a text or an email, there is no need to call for a meeting. Number 5, cut down on unnecessary attendees. If the meeting does not involve or has no relevance to an attendee, then there is no reason to have them there. Larger meetings can be harder to control and can result in attendees not receiving a chance to speak. Include action items and accountability. Meeting action items create accountability because they require team members to take responsibility for a task and hold themselves accountable by reporting on it the following week. These can be useful for receiving feedback or completing tasks. Number 7, have predetermined solutions for meeting topics. You should come to meetings prepared. For example, you should come with solutions for the topics listed in the agenda. This will help speed up the meeting. And number 8, use online tools as a possible alternative to meetings. This could be using Microsoft Teams so the attendees don't have to meet in person. It could also be using visual aids such as PowerPoints or videos to keep everyone interested. How to deliver a presentation effectively. In this section, I have included a number of tips to help you deliver a presentation effectively. All of these tips listed below should be used to make a presentation more interesting. Number 1, prepare thoroughly. Before the presentation, have everything prepared such as notes or visual aids. Number 2, know your audience. Think about who your audience is. Are they kids? Are they adults? Are they pensioners? Based on this, your presentation will have to be altered. Number 3, stick to your timeline. Make sure the meeting starts and finishes on time. Number 4, use visual aids if appropriate, such as images or videos. Number 5, use humour if appropriate. This can depend on the topic of your presentation. Number 6, don't read off the screen. Have notes ready that aren't all written on the screen. This will help keep the audience interested and listening to what you're saying. Number 7, memorize as much as possible. It is important to look at the audience during the presentation. If you memorize the presentation, this can be made easier because you won't have to look at your notes. The next slide is on KPIs. What are KPIs? KPIs are key performance indicators used in many areas of the engineering industry to monitor the efficiency of projects. KPIs are measurements that determine how well a project performs and help teams identify and resolve specific issues within the process. They give engineer managers a way to measure progress in a quantifiable way so they can keep their teams on schedule and assign tasks based on project needs. I have included 3 example KPIs below. The first being project timeline. A project timeline is an engineering KPI that gives managers a way to monitor a project based on established start dates and deadlines. Checking a project timeline regularly can help you identify specific challenges or obstacles that could affect the timeline of your project. You can then work with your team to strategize solutions to prevent or minimize delays. Every timeline looks different depending on the project type and the software used to create the timeline. The next is engineering efficiency. This KPI determines the effectiveness of your team in all projects. You can use it to determine if you need to make changes to your team, such as adding members or redistributing tasks. Engineering managers calculate efficiency by comparing the cost of paying the engineering team with the number of projects they can handle at once. The final KPI is cost performance indicator. Cost performance indicator, also known as CPI, is a KPI managers calculate after a project's completion to determine its efficiency in terms of engineering cost. CPI compares the budgeted cost and actual cost to determine a value. Any value greater than the one indicated, the team completed the project under budget. Here is the formula for calculating your CPI. Budgeted cost of work minus actual cost of work equals your CPI. Final conclusion. In conclusion, hopefully this presentation has helped you to improve your leadership and communication skills. This slide is just a final overview of my presentation. Effective persuasion. Remember your 4 steps to successful persuasion. Effective negotiation. Remember the 10 steps to effective negotiation. Managing effective group meetings. Remember the 8 main steps for managing an effective group meeting. How to deliver a presentation effectively. Try to remember some of the key tips, such as prepare thoroughly, know your audience, and stick to your timeline. And finally, using KPIs to track efficiency. There are lots of KPIs out there, so it isn't important to remember them all, but it is useful to know why they are used. We have reached the end of the presentation. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask, and I will try to answer them as best I can. Thank you for listening.